Welcome to Real Money Talks. Real strategies from the moneymakers and the world changers that you can use to make millions, keep those millions, multiply your wealth, and build your team. Here's your host, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View, Loral Langmeyer.
Hi, this is Loral, and welcome back to Loral's Real Money Talks, where we're talking about making money, keeping money, and investing money, and how to do that with a team. We have a new awesome teammate that I had to interview, and some of you are going to say, well, how is this about making money? And I think a lot of you all know, my belief on that is if you don't keep your health, you're doing all this wealth building is just an interesting activity. So I have Dr. Trinh with me today, and he is a world-leading brain and Alzheimer's research specialist, surgeon. So tell us about you. Like, how did you get into the brain world, Dr. Trinh?
All right. Thanks for inviting me to the podcast, by the way. Yeah, name is Dung Trinh, and I've been a physician since 1999 when I got out of residency at Loral in California. I'm an internist by training and do a lot of geriatric medicine.
Oh, interesting.
So after 17 years of taking care of patients, and especially senior patients, I was successful in reducing heart disease, cutting down strokes, helping with diabetes. The only thing I had no control over 17 years was simply watching my patients get diagnosed with Alzheimer's and going through the entire process from beginning to end and just watching helplessly without having much of a tool to help them out with that. And it was devastating not only to our patients, but to the family as well. Mm-hmm. I know you know, Laura, that of every patient who's been officially diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which, by the way, is an epidemic actually in the United States, of every patient diagnosed, 3 other family members are affected. And
really?
It is devastating to the family. Folks are taking time off work. They're quitting work to become caregivers, caretakers, because we don't have the resources and we're not prepared to deal with this, what we call the long death. The long death is when your brain is gone, but your body continues, and it can continue for years. And I watched helplessly on the sideline when my patients were diagnosed, and I ended up signing their death certificates over the years. And so what I did was I made a decision to focus just on the brain. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. I'm involved with Alzheimer's research. We are looking for a cure. We run clinical trials, testing multiple medications, multiple pharma medications, going through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies. There is some light at the end of the tunnel, but we still have a long ways to go. So,
what in your experience now in researching this causes it? I mean, like you said, so it's I think it's a world-leading epidemic. Clearly in America,
right.
We got folks from I don't even know how many countries listen to this podcast now. So, what do you think the cause? Why is it so widespread and increasing?
Real quick, I'm going to give you a snapshot of what a healthy brain is like and what a non-healthy brain is like. In a healthy brain, we each have about 100 billion brain cells. And in a healthy brain, one brain cell will talk to the next brain cell, and they'll talk to the next brain cell, and they'll talk to the next brain cell. So they form these patterns of connections in the brain, patterns of communication, so that each pattern can be viewed as a memory. Each pattern can be viewed as a thought, a feeling. So what happens is, have you heard of amyloid protein? Have you heard the plaque that builds up in the brains of Alzheimer's patients? Mm-hmm. So amyloid and tau tangles, we call it. These are the two culprits. We call it amyloid beta. And what it is that it is a protein that builds up excessively in the brains of patients with Alzheimer's. And what this protein does is that it physically gets in the way and it blocks communication between brain cell to brain cell, so that your brain cells can no longer talk to one another. And when this occurs, when enough of this occurs in the brain, and the brain cells can't communicate, it breaks up these patterns of communication, so it breaks up the memories. That's when memory problems start. So we know that every patient who has Alzheimer's, 100% of them have amyloid plaque in their brain, 100%. At the same time, we also know that not everyone who has the plaque will actually go on to get Alzheimer's, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Because that tells me that even if you have the plaque, we can bend the curve. We can bend the curve to avoid the diagnosis. And that's exactly what I do at Irvine Clinical Research in Irvine, is we bend the curve through clinical research.
And are you bending the curve through, like you mentioned pharma, and we're going to switch directions on our whole audience here and talk about medical marijuana, because I know you support it. You and I both have, a huge passion for that, what's going to cure a lot of things. Right. But in your clinical trial, are you doing mostly pharma work? I mean, are you seeing any, like, that kind of medicine coming out? Because I know as we talk about medical marijuana, we know there's some hope over there.
Right. So I do two things with the Healthy Brain Club. First of all, I'm an educator. So I am in the community several times a week. I'm in hospitals, I'm at senior centers, I'm at community centers, and I do education on Alzheimer's risk reduction. We know what the risks are. We know the factors that lead to this plaque production, and I'm out there educating the public on what we need to do with our lifestyle to reduce our risk for Alzheimer's. Thus, foremost is prevention, right? Mm-hmm. Doing what you can to minimize the risk. Secondly, we do clinical research. What this means is that pharma companies develop medications that need to go through the clinical trials process before it gets to the FDA for approval. So in clinical research, we conduct these protocols to test these medications. And you know what? It's quite exciting. After 15 years of having nothing approved, the last medication approved for Alzheimer's was back in 2003. It was a medication called Detrimental. And it's been 15 years. We had zero approval of medications. And we kind of know why, but that's like an hour lecture I got to give you to tell you that reason. But what we're doing now is we are using immunotherapy. Have you heard that term, immunotherapy?
I have.
Immunotherapy currently is being used successfully in the treatment of cancer. So what we do is we prime the immune system to recognize the cancer cell as the bad guy. So, for example, rather than thrashing the body with chemotherapy, which destroys the good guy and the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
With high risk, what immunotherapy does is that we simply train the immune system to recognize the cancer cell so that the immune system itself goes after the cancer cell. President Jimmy Carter, he had brain cancer. He no longer has brain cancer due to immunotherapy. And we are using immunotherapy in melanoma. We're using immunotherapy in certain types of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, in leukemias, certain types of breast cancers and lung cancer. And we're doing it with success. What we are doing now is we're taking this technology of immunotherapy, we are bringing it over to Alzheimer's treatment. So what I'm doing in the clinic is we have a team that uses immunotherapy to train the immune system to recognize the Alzheimer's plaque as the bad guy. Very interesting research.
Very interesting. So that's seeing, positive results. Now, as a physician, let's talk about medical marijuana. How does someone support it, as you say, without becoming a pothead, especially in light of, and I'm actually just going to bring this in, because it just came out on a couple days ago. So I don't remember which exact day, but Colorado just came out with a study. I don't know if you saw that, where, and I don't know who actually did it, obviously the people against the industry, saying that a lot of the kids are becoming, addicted, that vapes in most of the states with medical and recreational, vapes are becoming, an all-time risk factor in the high schools and the junior highs. So,
right.
It's this interesting duality of, this medicine, I'm going to call it, that actually could change lives with studies like that and, reports like that. So how do you support it as a physician? Let's speak to that.
Right. As physicians, and especially as a physician like myself who grew up in a conservative family home, I went to church. I grew up with a lifetime of, I shouldn't call it propaganda, but I grew up with a lifetime of belief, that pot is bad, that weed is evil, right? And we go to church.
I got the same story. I got the same family, same story. Yeah.
I've been taught that my whole life. And that's still the prevailing thought in many communities. What is kind of turning my world around now as a researcher in medicine, I am seeing published reports on a routine basis on the fact that cannabis is treating childhood seizures, that cannabis is treating chronic pain, that cannabis is treating anxiety, and report after report is coming out, and it's making me quote unquote confused because my worldview has always been that pot is evil. So we have this dilemma now. Is it evil or is it helping? And that's where I'm slowly looking to see how can we promote medical marijuana for health reasons, for cutting down the use of opioid addiction, for replacing some of these other medications with tons of side effects. How can we use this from a responsible perspective and not create potheads? And
do you have any? I can't call it medical advice, but I mean, what's your answer to that today? Knowing that there's all this research yet to be done, there's proof to be done, clinical trials because it's federally, not legal is really difficult, more challenging to do, I'll say. So, what's your short answer to that today? Knowing that in 2-3 months, and as we continue to work together on what we've been talking about, your answer will change and expand. I'll say that. So, what's it today?
It will. My short answer is to look at the data, to look at the evidence that's coming out. The data does show that children who use marijuana for the wrong reasons will have detrimental effects long-term on their brains. So we need responsible parenting. We need to educate folks that marijuana, if used correctly, can provide health benefits. Well, at the same time, we're not promoting everyone to go out and smoke weed. With that. And I think it can be done. And I think, Laura, through your partnership and through, maybe new projects that we can create, we can promote this for the right reasons, for health reasons, to benefit, society, to benefit folks who need it. My seniors, many of them are going out without telling me, and they're buying, CBD oil. They're using cannabis behind my back simply because they fear that I will condemn it. But truly, I'm looking at the data, and it is helping folks with chronic pain, with arthritis, with Crohn's disease, with multiple conditions that are currently actually not even FDA approved for this, but people are using it because they're seeing the benefits of it. So we need to find a way to bring this out and in a responsible manner. And I think it can be done. The research is panning out as well. I mean, there's
talk about that a little bit. Talk a little deeper about how, is it just the CBD oil? Is it CBD with a little THC? Because that's, being in this industry, and just off back frame for the audience, last July, if you've been following, I got heavily into this industry and knew I was, going to make a big stake in this new asset class called cannabis, also going to do blockchain and cryptocurrency. So we bought 23 acres in Cathedral City. And so one of my conversations with Dr. Trim is, what if we took and did a fund really just to focus on medical and really Alzheimer's and brain memory loss, and made a center in Cathedral City and put the clinical trials. We'll have licenses that we'll be able to do different things with that I think will support it. So just so those of you in the backdrop, just continue to watch as this expands and your research expands. But back to my question, is it CBD with THC? What I'm seeing is that's not happening. And that's why I'd love, you and your doc friends to really get around is providing some dosage recommendations. I mean, people just, like you said, they hide about it. They're embarrassed about it. They don't know what people think, so they just don't say anything. And the dosing is the biggest, what I'm hearing and seeing is one of the bigger challenges that people don't know.
Right. And it's super early in the field to even look at dosing. We still have some restrictions under the FDA of even doing clinical trials on cannabis, because cannabis at the federal level is still illegal. I mean, marijuana in general, right? At the federal level. So because of those laws, there are restrictions to even initiate, clinical trials for health benefits. But I think that's going to return. And I think the attitudes and the views will change over the next few years with that. But just to show you the amount of studies and early research coming out about cannabis, all you have to do is go to the government website called PubMed.com. It's a PUB, B as in boy, MED.com.
And who backs that? Just so I'm always very transparent. Is that a medically based or government based? Yeah.
Yes. It is the NIH, National Institute of Health. It is the government site for clinical trials. And when you go there, in the search section, just write down cannabis. And when you do that, you will be surprised at the list of research that's been published. I just did it right now. It's 17,906 reports. 17,000 reports on cannabis research published in clinical journals and medical journals. So the studies is basically exploding in learning early information on cannabis. And as you know, marijuana, I mean, God doesn't create any evil plants, right? It's just that humans abuse it.
No, it's true. We abuse it. And I want to add to that, just if you actually dig deeper, that's why I asked if it was a government, or I love that it's actually the national, health group that's doing it. But I don't remember the year, but if I'm accurate, and I know Steve, who's helping us do our recording this morning, knows too, but the U.S. government, to my understanding, owns the U.S. patent of medical marijuana. They own the trademarks, they own the patent. I mean, I think it was even like the 1800s when it was banned. But I think the governments have known, not just the U.S., have known for centuries that medical marijuana, in its, like you said, right, responsible use, can cure a lot. Yes.
And it's very ironic that they would deem it illegal, and at the same time, they own the patent on it.
Yep, they do. They want. I think they knew, like somebody wise, knew that somewhere down the line, the U.S. government could make a hell of a lot of money. I don't know that they actually will. I think that's just interesting.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about. So first, you have a brain club. So anybody wants to learn more about what you're doing and follow, what you and I are both going to be doing, and see how that goes,
right,
and how it's going to help them. But where can they follow you and some of your lectures?
I run the healthybrainclub.com, and that's our website, healthybrainclub.com. And my purpose of the healthybrainclub.com is simply to bring awareness, education on Alzheimer's risk reduction. And so if you or anyone else knows somebody who's suffering from this, this horrible condition, you can go on there and there's a number of videos I have on there on YouTube that are linked where you can learn a little bit about Alzheimer's and about lifestyle changes to reduce our risk. And that's basically what I do now with that. And it's a passion because a lot of us know somebody who have suffered from this disease of Alzheimer's.
Just say your website one more time so everyone hears it.
healthybrainclub.com.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to take you back to just to kind of dot a few I's and cross some T's in our conversation this morning. So the patients that you said are going behind your back, are they just using pure CBD, or are they actually, that's what brought up my dosing question, or are they actually just, going into dispensaries and trying to figure out what might be best for them based on, honestly, an employee at a dispensary's opinion?
What's really interesting is there's a senior retirement community close to where I work, and there's 18,000 retirees in this community. They're one of the largest senior communities in California, actually, and they have over 200 clubs 200 clubs in this community. The largest and the fastest growing club is the Cannabis Club.
Interesting.
And it's not because seniors want to get high, right? It's not because seniors want to get high, but because they are realizing that a lot of the conditions that affect seniors, arthritis, chronic pain, a lot of these conditions is actually taken care of by medical marijuana, by cannabis. So they're talking to each other, they're going out and getting products together, they're hopping on a bus to go to dispensaries to pick up products. I don't even know exactly where they go, but I know they hop on a bus and they go together in groups to get this kind of stuff. And again, I'm realizing now that our seniors and our patients are doing this behind our backs because they fear condemnation. They fear condemnation by doctors. But we have to, as physicians, we have the responsibility to figure out why this is occurring and why our patients are actually getting better relief with this than the opioids that we've been prescribing.
Absolutely. Well, and then you talk about another, world-leading addiction just in the opioids and the misuse of that as well. I could talk to you forever about this, as you tell, I have high interest in. But one thing just on the parenting side, what would you say, I'm in Nevada, you're in California, we're both in, recreational, medical, legal states. And, as I'm moving my daughter to new middle school, and I was meeting with the principal and the counselors, and they're the ones that said it too. They said, I said, so how's bullying and what's the school like? And just asking normal parent questions. And they said, our number one problem is bullying anymore. It's actually vape use. And where the kids are getting is from the parents, sneaking it and hiding it. And so I think there's just a huge category right there, knowing that misuse in the children will actually damage their brain. Has to be a huge message to the parents. Parents are uneducated. They don't know what to say. So what would you say to parents just about responsible use other than the way, you and I grew up, which is, you're going to die if you have it. It's illegal. You're going to go to jail. Everything, your whole life's going to fall down. What would be a few, a minute to parents out there, what they could say to their kids about responsible use?
Right. I would say that the medical studies and the research have shown that marijuana use in a brain that is still developing with the children, in a brain that is still developing, will cause long-term damage to that brain. Anything that we view as natural, as safe, anything overused and abused will become damaging. It doesn't matter if it's a vitamin, a nutrient. If you're overusing it and using it inappropriately, it becomes a medication that can be harmful. And it's the same way with cannabis. It's the same way with marijuana. Used for the wrong reasons, just to get high, especially when you're young, will cause irreparable damage to the brain. So that needs to go hand in hand in our education about medical marijuana. We need to educate about responsible use of marijuana long term.
Yep. Well, and at different phases in your life and different conditions in your life. And like you said, we're a long way from dosing, but whoever actually can crack that formula is going to be, not a billionaire, probably a trillionaire, or the government will decide that the government will decide they claimed it. So we need to go. We promise our listeners that this podcast comes out on a regular schedule. So it comes out on where they can get up in the morning and we're the first conversation that they're listening to or on the way to work. So Dr. Trim, thank you. And I'm sure you'll be back on many more podcasts as we continue this journey together. Is there any last words that you want to say to our folks?
I just want to say, Laurel, thank you for bringing up this conversation. This conversation needs to happen. It's evolving. Medical marijuana is approved in 29 states, and it's just a matter of time. And so we need to bring up this conversation to our family. And we can learn a way to monetize it as well as investors. And so it's a win-win situation.
It is. So I appreciate your time. And again, if you want to learn more, stay in tune. Dr. Trim's site is healthybrainclub.com. And if you have any questions or want just to give us some feedback, go to askloral.com. It's ASKLORAL.com. Put in your name, your phone number, your email, make a request, or ask a question, and we'll be back with you right away. And this is it for this podcast on Loral's Real Money Talks. Have an amazing day.
Thanks for listening to the Real Money Talks podcast. Your host has been Loral Langmeyer, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View. Want to learn more about off-Wall Street investing, tax strategies, and multi-million-dollar business strategies? Visit loralsrealmoneytalks.com for past episodes, show notes, and resources. For some special wealth-building gifts only for Loral's podcast listeners, visit loralsrealmoneytalks.com/podcast gifts. Do you have a burning question for Loral? Visit askloral.com to submit your question, and it may just be covered on a podcast episode. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to get new episodes every week.